America. I am Noah Morales.
And I am Melissa Gill. Today in entertainment, we're going to tell you about a short show that is being premiered in the small theaters of Broadway called The Pit and the Pendulum.
The Broadway show is actually directed by Boston native Edgar Allan Poe. The Pit and the Pendulum is directed by the famous New Jersey director Joshua Sinisco.
Poe is known for his gothic and dark styles of writing, and you might have heard of him in The Raven, which is a very famous poem.
The Pit and the Pendulum is a short story that appeals to people's senses. Poe carefully uses words to make sure that the reader captures in fullness what he wants to portray to the character.
Right. The Longman Anthology of World Literature states that Poe excelled at bringing to the surface the psychic blackness of darkness. Poe meant deep-rooted emotion, free from prosaic learning or transient excitement. Poe's attacks on the body and the senses are meant to release sublime energies. Forcibly deprived of its external anchors and drifting melancholy and terror, the soul achieves its pure state. How interesting and intense, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you know that the short story is prefaced by 4 lines of a Latin poem? I had no idea.
Yeah, apparently the whole story is based on the French Revolution, and it has to do with what happened in 1793 with the Reign of Terror.
Right, and talking about history, the short story by Poe has some historical references that are important to the finale of the story.
That's right. In the beginning of the story, we see that the narrator uses the mention of inquisitorial voices. He happens to be talking about the Roman Inquisition, where they used to take care of, or I guess, fight against heretics.
Yeah, the story is said to give chills to anybody who reads it, and I'm sure in theater is no different. Some people would say that it keeps you at the edge of your seat, very hanging on. And without further ado, we'd like to show you a little clip of the show that is playing here in New York City.
And after that clip, we will come back with a phone conference with Dr. Charles Ariza, who has a PhD in analyzing literature, and he's going to help us out with The Pit and the Pendulum, with its mysterious darkness.
And here it is, The Pit and the Pendulum, playing at the Alchfield Theater on West 54th Street.
I am brought in with a blindfold. I was sick, sick unto death with long agony. Is this my death sentence? I hear inquisitorial speaking in a hum, talks of revolution for a staggered moment. I see black-robed judges. Their intensity of expression of firmness insisted of only stern contempt of human torture, as I shivered in fear. I can see only a glimpse of 7 candles upon the table. There seemed to be a sign of hope, but then, all at once, I felt sick to my stomach over my spirit. Indeed, soon after, the judges disappear. As with the light from the 7 candles, my judgment sealed, as with my fate, and then black. I had swooned, but will not say consciousness was lost. In the deepest slumber, no. In delirium, no. In a swoon, no. In death, no. Even in the deepest grave, all is not lost. It was first the mental or spiritual that had awakened, and then the sense of existence as I lay shaking. I again returned to my soul motion and sound. I could hear the motion of the heart, and in my ears, the sound of its beating. Suddenly, I came back to consciousness. What the heck was that? Fond memories then appeared off the trail. The sentence, the sickness, and the swoon. So far, I had not opened my eyes. I felt that I lay upon my back, unbound. I dare not employ my vision. I dreaded the first glance of objects around me. It is not that I feared to look upon things horrible, but I grew in awe in the thought of never seeing light. At length, my worst fears are a reality as I became encompassed in the blackness of eternal night. I knew it. I'm in a Saw movie. I struggled for breath as the intensity of darkness oppressed and stifled me. A fearful idea suddenly drove the blood in torrents upon my heart. I once more relapsed into insensibility. Upon recovering, I at once started to my feet, trembling as if I was a girly girl. I jumped to my feet and thrust my arms wildly around me, in all directions. I feel nothing, yet I lunged forward with my arms extended and my eyes almost out their sockets, with hope of catching a faint ray of light. My fate was not the most hideous of fates. I outstretched my hands at length and continued to step cautiously onwards, where I encouraged some solid obstruction. It was a wall, seemingly of stone, masonry, very smooth, slimy. What I am doing, this is just nasty, blah. I followed it all with no means of ascertaining the dimensions of my dungeon. I continued groping alongside the wall and walked about 12 paces. I had not considered the extent of the dungeon or upon my own weakness. The ground was moist and slippery. I staggered onward for some time when the hem of my robe entangled between my legs and I fell violently on my face. Immediately, in somewhat startling circumstances, my chin rested upon the floor of the prison, but my lips and upper portion of my head touched nothing. At the same time, my forehead seemed bathed in a peculiar smell of decayed fungus arose to my nostrils. Oh, what is that smell? Did I fart? I put my arm forward and shuddered to find that I had fallen at the very brink of a circular pit, groping about the masonry just below the margin. I succeeded in dislodging a small fragment and let it all fall to the abyss. I saw clearly the doom which had been prepared for me, and congratulated myself upon the timely accident by which I had escaped. Another step before my fall, and the world would see me no more. Shaking in my every limb, I groped my way back to the wall, resolving there to perish to rather than risk the terror of the wells, of which my imagination now pictured many in various positions about the dungeon. Agitation of spirit kept me awake for many long hours, but at length I again slumbered. Upon awakening, I found by my side a pitcher of water. A burning thirst consumed me, and I emptied the vessel at a draught. It must have been drugged, for scarcely had I drunk before I became drowsy. A deep sleep fell upon me, a sleep like that of death. When once again I closed my eyes, I found my personal condition had been greatly changed during slumber. I now lay upon my back and at full length on a species of low framework of wood. To this I was scarcely bound by a long strap. It left at liberty only my hand and my left arm at such extent that I could supply myself with food from an earthen dish which lay by my side on the floor. The food of the dish was meat perfectly seasoned. Looking upward, I surveyed the ceiling of my prison. I heard a metallic noise from above. There I caught a glimpse of what was supposed to be a huge pendulum, such as we see on antique clocks. While I gazed, I fancied that I saw in it motion. Its swift was brief and slow.
And what happens next?
Watch the play.
Come see the play.
Let's go watch them out. That was just a magnificent clip. I think I'm gonna go check this one out for myself.
It's so great. Matter of fact, I think I'm gonna call Dr. Charles Ariza now. Get him on the line.
Yeah.
Good morning, Dr. Charles Ariza.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Hear you loud and clear.
Oh, good day, Noel, or rather, should I say good morning, Noel, and good morning, Melissa, and good morning, America.
So tell us, Dr. Charles, have you caught this show yet?
Oh, yes, I have. To say I was very excited to hear that it was being turned into a Broadway show.
And were your expectations met?
Yes, absolutely. I thought the director did an exceptional job bringing the story to life.
Good to hear. So, Dr. Charles, you're here today to try to explain us a little bit of the back meaning behind this Pit and the Pendulum story.
Yes, we know you spend a lot of time studying and analyzing this story, and we would like to hear an expert explain to us what this story is implying, or the message that Poe is trying to convey.
Sure. Well, the aim of the story is very simply to create a dark atmosphere of foreboding and atmospheric horror, and Poe achieves this by minimally tracking the path of the unnamed narrator's thoughts and experiences. Despite the lurid descriptions and the account of relatively reliable narrator, Poe excludes certain details that heighten the suspense of the story. Just as he carefully tracks the psychological wanderings of the narrator, the author does describe the wrongdoing of the narrator or the details of his arrest and later of his salvation.
Wow, that is very interesting.
Yes, it is, Melissa. To me, the most curious aspect of the Pit and the Pendulum is the aspect that sets the story apart from most of Poe's writings. Is that the prisoner is abruptly and expectedly saved from doom in the last paragraph, which is in line with the narrator's focus on his hope, or on hope. His punishment by the Inquisition is as much about mental torture as it is about physical discomfort, and accordingly, the narrator swings back and forth between hope and despair, as well as sanity and insanity. Despite his frequent fainting fits, he is able to maintain enough of a grip on his mental facilities to survive the peril of the falling pendulum. However, by the time the walls begin to close in on him, he appears to be rapidly losing the battle for his insanity. Ultimately, his survival is not dependent on his own faculties, but it justifies the hope that characterizes his fight to stay alive throughout the whole ordeal.
It's profound. It's just profound. I had never looked at it from that perspective.
Neither did I. It's just so mysterious and hidden in there. Dr. Charles, thank you so much. We really appreciate, taking some time and sharing your thoughts with us. He's very interesting, Poe. Just always interesting.
Always my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me, Melissa, my dear. And thank you, Noel. We should all catch up for some coffee sometime soon.
We should.
Yeah, we should.
Well, that's all that we have for tonight. Goodbye, and we'll see you, Warrington, or Dr. Warrington, better said, and everybody else. Take care.